So I said last week that I was going to do something on Phase 2 work. We already had a tribute to Phase 1. This was the text that Benjamin read. It says, "Then everyone came whose heart was stirred." I like that, whose heart was stirred. "And everyone whose spirit was willing." God doesn't want anybody there because they have to be. "And they brought the Lord's offering for the work of the tabernacle of the meeting, for all its services and for all its garments." This is from the book of Ezra. This is when they go to rebuild the temple as they head back from Babylon. It said, "Then the heads of the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all whose spirits God had moved," I like that, God moved on their spirit, "arose to go up and build a house for the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. And some of the heads of the fathers of the houses, and when they came to the house of the Lord, which was in Jerusalem, offered," because they had to, "freely for the house of God to erect it." They had a heart that wanted to see that. "According to their ability, they gave to the treasury for the work." Some people have more, some people have less. But I just thank for every gift that we have had, both in talents and times. With some, simply you shared your spouse to be up here many weekends or during the week. With some of you, you doubled up on your duties here inside the church so that you could free up people that would have more time to work. So I want to thank you. Now, in the book of Ezra, chapter 3, verse 1 through, they talk about everyone. Of course, that's the wall. That would be, I think I missed, that should be Nehemiah. And in the book of Nehemiah, if you read that for 31 verses, he lists this family built the sheep's gate, and this family went and built such and such a gate, and this family went and they fixed the top of the wall, and this family went. They took the time to write down in sacred scripture forever what those people did, working to build the house of God, or in this case, the wall that was around it, was recorded in history. And my point I have to us today is our names written. We built a church here in Grand Blanc. I shouldn't say we, all of it. I know God did a lot. So I thought today we would take some time and kind of do a Nehemiah, only we're going to call it the Book of Grand Blanc Seventh-day Adventist Church, okay? Amen. And we're going to list out the families, and these are in no particular order. Just as I saw a picture, if it was the Hensel family, they went up. I did hold the pastor till last, so I just thought that would be appropriate, just so you know. Isn't it? Because I think you're like. So, this is the Book of Grand Blanc, and the Hensel family did gym siding, painted walls, and a whole bunch more. So we start with Landon and Kendall. They were on the disposal crew there, hardworking. They worked on the drywall. Landon and his dad helped dig it. If you remember, we had to dig out there and get rid of the old skirting that was underneath there. We demoed those walls. Remember that? That was a lot of fun. We even ripped out the carpeting. I've got this on video where they're pulling that back towards that. And that's Kaylee in there too. I didn't have a lot of pictures of Kaylee, so I want to make sure I got that one in. And I had a zillion of the Hensel families, particularly of Diana working. I just got Diane there. It should have been Diana. She was always up. She did a lot of painting. She did help tear down the old trim that was on that. Do you remember the color of that? Take a look over that now. Look at the color it used to be. And then, of course, Lynn and I were siding cellmates. We did a lot of it. We came up during the week while we had the 60-degree weather and tried to get as much up during the week as we could because we felt it might change, which it did. So now here's another family. This is the family of Lopez. And they painted the exterior of the modular. They were a demo crew and a whole bunch more here. So there's Tanya, which I love that blue dress when she painted. There's all kinds of little white spots. What'd I say? Oh, my mind is ahead of me here. Joey and Benjamin, I got a zillion pictures. Look at these guys. They were just going. I come out here, and these guys are walking with those white trim boards and screw guns. And they're screwing up the trim. I'm like, did you need anybody to tell you how to do that? Nope, we got it. Okay.
Awesome.
And they were demo crew on that. I just remember we decided we were going to start on this one room. And I didn't even say anything to Joey. Joey just walks by me. He goes, gets his big yellow crowbar, and he just rips off this huge chunk. And you can see him and Lynn are pulling it out. That's a whole piece that they took out. We jacked up the porch, and then we had to put these little splice posts in and these little splice plates. And there was like a skazillion screws. And so these guys, I think Kathy got them some hard hats, didn't you? Was that you, Kathy, that got them? And these guys went right to it. Benjamin, same thing. I didn't say a word. I said, we got to get that trim off. He goes and gets like 2 hammers. You got to put the claw of one under, smacking under. He starts ripping off that molding. And this was that piece that Joey took off, and they were hauling them out. And then Joe's up there, and they're doing the trim around the windows. And Joe, I want to compliment you on a good job you did with the kids there. They are very skilled with those tools, and they take initiative. Good job on that. We had the Hughes family was out there, and they worked on landscape. They worked on the poles for the frames for the modular and a whole bunch more. And we've got Jordan and Charmaine doing some landscaping. They're pulling out the old tree roots, and Jordan's having a snack. And we had Patrick came on out, and Jordan, they did spread the topsoil when we finally graded out that mess back there. Here, Jordan's putting in fire caulk behind that wall. She doesn't look to be real thrilled, but I was glad for that. And then here's Jim. He'd get up on the scaffolding, and Lynn would be on the other side. Lynn doesn't like heights a lot, and then Jim would give it a little shake like that. Lynn would go, cut it out. That's why he's grinning, by the way. And he did some work around the poles. There was a lot of little framing that has to go on. And then we always really like teamwork here, so we put the crew together there for some good ideas, using our heads. The Hereford family, they painted the exterior of the module, demo crew, modular, whole bunch more. Tony has really good skills, one of my master craftsmen, so if it was really difficult and I didn't know how to do it, I'd ask Tony to do it, and he was usually more than willing to do it. We had Matt out there. He was cutting up some of the board that would go around on the skirting. I also got him to use that young, healthy back of his along with KENDALL and LANDON to kind of, when the machine digs it, they get the big stuff, but you got to get in there with a shovel and clean out some of the smaller stuff in there. And here's Tony and Lim putting up drywall. This was our super crew on that handrail. We put it up and we had to redo the grab bar that you hold on. The system they had was really hokey. When you got to the middle, it would really bend. And so the inspector said, well, you got to do something else. So these guys got up there and they put some additional brackets. And the building inspector calling back said, I just want to tell you what a nice job you did on that. So Tony and Jim, you got complimented by the building inspector. And Tony also helped with these little frames for the poles that are in the fellowship room. Landon was there setting, if you look, there's a wood trim on the bottom of the beam, and we had, what's the name of that gun that you shoot? Ramset. So you take a 22 cartridge and you put it in it, and then a steel nail, you load it and you cock it, and you put it onto the wood nail and you blast it, and it blasts right through the wood, right through the steel. And Landon loved that. He was our guy. I think he did almost all of them, didn't he, Tony? And then we had the Riggs family here. Dave is just a super hard worker. When I really need some back-breaking work, he was one of my best guys. He a couple times brought Matt out, and this is in the back corner, right towards the end. It was about a little over a year ago, and remember we had hard rains. We had mud up past our ankles, so I called it mud bog in there. But great reprise. Those panels were pretty much full-size 4x8s treated lumber, and they're about, I don't know, 60, 70 pounds, but trying to hold those in position with no handles, that was tough. Calvin was on a lot of that too. I think he was worn out. And this is Austin. What is his girlfriend's name? I forgot. I thought maybe someone, but anyways, they came out and helped. And Dave and Tony, if you remember, we had to demo the old bathrooms that were in the fellowship hall. Do you remember that? There was a lot of work in there. And then Kyla, she was our spray painting machine. I bought this Home Depot spray painting machine, and she said, "How do you work it?" I said, "I had no idea." And she says, "I'll figure it out," and she did. Everything in that modular was painted, ceiling, walls, with a primer, and then she went back and just Kyla did all the ceilings in there. And then she took it over to the gym and she spray painted all the walls. It was just Kyla did all that. She was just a spray paint machine. In addition, she did a lot of the painting in the fellowship hall. She went up on top of the roof gables on the gym, and she was also, if you look, she was all the way up to the very top painting on that. So that was going on during the week. A lot of people didn't see that, so I just want to thank Kyla for that. And here's the Burns family. This is Rema, the demo queen. She was always hard at it. If you remember you saw that picture of the guys out, we were all working in the mud and everything. Well, you had to drill those in. And of course, your hands were covered in mud, and all of our tools literally got caked in mud. And bless her heart, she came and cleaned them all out. They were so bad, you pull the trigger, and there was so much mud caked, and they wouldn't operate. And she did all the cleaning on that. She's another one of our painting machines. This is the Spanish room, 0.1. That's the second color we chose. And she got this little roller brush that goes along the ceiling. My wife wants to get it now. She did all that trim along the top. And there's Jack and Jim. They were doing the trim on the decking there, around the window trims there. Jack is using a compass to measure out the new seal. If you saw the lights in the fellowship hall, we had to cut those out in a circular panel. So he's using a little hand compass to mark out that. And we also put siding up on the deck. That was him and Brad that were on that. We had the Oliver family. They painted exterior and interior, skirting, electrical, whole bunch more. Brad, again, is one of our more skilled workers. And so we had them in a lot of places. There's Andrew. We were up, this was almost over 2 years ago that we were up doing the ceiling. We had to patch the corners. And you see a lot of pictures of Brad working on lighting. He's almost always on a ladder looking up on these pictures. Here's an exception. He's working on the outlets on the ground for a change. I mentioned how God always provides people with just the right skill at just the right time. So we go out there to do this little deck. Well, Brad had just done one. And so he's telling us, if you look at underneath, the framing underneath what that sits on, anyways, he had just the right ideas, and it all went together. I still haven't had it inspected, but I'm quite confident we'll be fine on it. And again, another picture of Jack and Brad putting up the siding outside the door there. And there they are working on the ceiling lights. Jack would cut out that circular drywall two layers thick, and then Brad would come back and put the lights in. Kathy would often bring us up lunch. And there's a group at the Fellowship Hall. It only has REMA mentioned because I had to learn how to use my PowerPoint presentation, and the first one I had would always clip the picture, so the only one in the picture was REMA. Well, I went back and it had design suggestions, so I got the full picture in, but I didn't have time to change the caption. So everybody's in there, and she's really appreciate when you're working. You start at 8, and it's nice to have a nice meal to sit down and have. This is the Hemingway family. This is Matt and Jessica came in and helped with the Spanish room on that, and we very much appreciate it. Louise, I only had the one picture of you up on the roof. He was out up on the siding with you. He was all the way up at the very top. But the picture, I said, Jim, take a picture. So he sent it to me. Well, the file abbreviation was, I think, HEIC, H-E-I-C, and my computer won't pick it up. So I do have a picture of you up on top of the roof looking down with the rest of us, and I appreciated that. I also had a picture of Jordan up there, was in that same picture, but I couldn't get it. So here's the Garcia family. Dan was expertise on patching the walls there with the drywall. And that's Luther, your dad there, on that. And Nancy was a huge help, and this was with several of the women. You know, when you're working with drywall, or you wind up with drywall dust on the ground, all those little pieces, all the cut pieces, same with the wood, sawdust and all that, and after a while it builds up. And for me, my lungs are still messed up from that. So from time to time, I would ask if we could just have some people come and just clean the place up, just move stuff out, sweep the place up, and that was a huge, huge help. And it was backbreaking and hard work. You had to wear a face mask because of the dust, but again, all of it goes together to make it work. Here's the Fernandez family. I always get a kick of Dave. He's almost always smiling at the camera whenever I take a picture. I always turn, take a picture. But there used to be a wall between the two fellowship rooms, and we had to take it down, and Dave's up there knocking out some of the last little pieces of trim on that. And there's his son along with Jim as we put in the new support poles and beam. If you remember, that was kind of a God thing too. We had taken down, let me back up one. So we had taken down the stud walls, there were 2 of them, and we had put these intermediate posts out. Well, we had to move them around to get some additional trim out, and we forgot to put a couple back in, and we left. And that was on Sunday. So Monday, I'm driving home, and I'm getting off at I-75 right there by the hospital on Grand Blanc Road, and I just had the strongest impression to stop by the site. And I said, well, I was just there yesterday, and you know, it's about to rain. And it just kept, and so I thought, okay, I'll go there, and I go in, and I walk in the room, and I hear this roaring. And I mean, it is just raining, just, you know, you just can hear it, and you can feel it just roar. And I look, and one of those, there's these little wood trusses on the one side that wasn't supported, started sagging down. It sagged down about that far. And I looked up and I didn't see, so I had to run and scramble and find some 2x4s and trim it back up. So needless to say, the next thing we did is we got our supports in. And let's see that. Again, smiling Dave, so he always has a smile for the camera. You know what I love about Dave is this guy's a surgeon, and yet he's more than willing to grab room and do whatever it takes to get the job done. He is, without a doubt, my best demo guy. He loves it. Pastor's a close second, but he loves it. He just gets right in there a couple times. I'm like, oh, stop, Dave. You know, he's got a whole window. I didn't want you to take that window down, you know, but whatever. But he's great. That's him up on top of the roof there, Jack helping him as we're setting the scaffolding up there, but Dave had a rope around that, and he was lifting up, and he yelled down, get a picture of me up here. It's like, show my wife. So we did. So that's Dave. And then the next week on that same peak, Lewis is up there, and we got Jordan, and we're all the way up at the top, and they're handing the little pieces of siding down to us when we're up here. Here's the Holmes family. Diane is just, man, she's a worker. She comes in. If you remember, we had to take down all the interior walls because they had made those into bedrooms and kind of divided them up. So we got in there, we took down all the stud walls. Well, the stud walls had nails and screws in them. So you had to pull the nails and then undo the screws. We salvaged the wood from that. We didn't have to buy one 2x4 except for one wall in the fellowship room. All of that was salvaged. If you look at the bottom of that picture, that's pink. Those are little drywall screws. We filled 2 buckets just in drywall screws. Diane is super on the landscaping. She jumps right in with a shovel. We even had Chris helping out with removing the, salvaging those boards in there. And if you'll look, Diane would always come and help with the cleanup. And I'll tell you, because of the dust and everything, plus it just, when you're walking around the site and there's little nails in boards and all, it's dangerous. So she was always one of the best we had out there. And then lately, if you get a chance, she cleaned out behind the gym. There were weeds on the fences this high up against that wall. Remember that, Calvin? And then she went around the corner, and there were all kinds of small trees and that went all around where that HV walls. She worked 3 Sundays on that. She really worked hard. She's on that. Then who's this guy? This is AKA Batman. Calvin has been through, he was down there in the mud bog with us, setting those panels. In fact, he went, that one day we set all those in that real muddy trench there. We were all exhausted, and Calvin went in to wash up, and we all left. And I didn't realize that Calvin was still here. Well, he went to go back to get in his pickup truck, and he couldn't even get into his truck. He thought he might have to call 911. He finally made it in the truck, drove himself up, and he was in the hospital for, well, how many days? A couple days. And I always wonder if we had a little early COVID bomb that stopped by. But anyways, he's been a big help on everything we've pretty well done out here since he's been here on that. And skilled worker, he can cut out holes in drywall. That's for the plumbing walls that went through. He set it over. So again, God looks at all of us, all the things that we're doing. Here's the Smith family. They've done pretty much everything except electrical. Seriously, I've done pretty much everything except, not because I wanted to, but when you're the foreman, you have to you have to be involved in everything. So I learned a lot, and I was just always so amazed that I'd say, okay, let's do it this way. And somebody'd say, well, Sid, I've done that before. The way you're supposed to do that. You see that wall right there? We got ready to do that, and Jack says, they call it the sill, but the bottom board that sits on the concrete will sweat. And if you've got regular wood on it, it'll deteriorate, and after a while, it'll just rot out on you. So you have to use treated lumber just on that bottom one and then put it on this little foam gasket so that it's not making contact. So we get ready to start these walls, and Jack says, I just did one in my house, and you really need we'd have put all these stud walls up, and the building inspector would have shot us down. They've probably been the end of my coordination days. My wife and Kathy often brought us lunches up here, and again, she brought this lunch that we had here. I, for whatever reason, didn't get a picture of her bring it, so I didn't want to get in too much trouble, but she too helped salvage the boards up here when she came up on that. When we first got back from the COVID restrictions, my wife was kind of concerned, so everybody had on the full mask, and then we wore rubber gloves, and then I sent a picture to Gina so that she wouldn't freak out, but if you'll notice, Lynn's already tore his gloves on there. This was a little bit of a Chinese fire drill. I hired a drywall company. Well, I got drywall from Home Depot, and then they had a private contractor bring it out, and then I was going to have them bring it inside. Well, they looked at, because we didn't have a step up going in the porch, and they said, well, we can't do it. But in the meantime, they dropped it off, and it was raining. I said, "Guy, you've got $1,000 worth of drywall sitting in the rain, So anyways, we scrambled out, and I called Home Depot, and they gave us free delivery on that and a discount. They gave us something else free, but anyways, the Hensel family came out, and we got them in out of the rain. This is Darth Vader, WASP killer. We had Dave got stung by a wasp, and Jim got stung by a wasp. It's on the back corner of that gym, and so anyways, I decided I would do it, and I would take precautions. I got safety glasses and a mask and a hat, and not that they still couldn't get me, but I thought I'd make a good picture anyways. That's when we lifted up the porch. If you remember, it used to sag about 4 or 5 inches out of plumb, so we cut the post. Then we jacked it up, and there's another case of somebody with just the right skill at just the right time. Lynn comes out, he's going to help me, and he says, Syd, I just jacked up my porch. I know how to do this. So I had bought a couple jacks, but you also need one to lift. So he brings out one of those big car jacks. And so we cut the post. He'd lift it up. I'd put one of the smaller jacks under there. And we cut the little filler pieces, and we put the splice plates in, and that's when Joy and Benjamin helped me with that. And easy peasy, nice and easy, but only because we had the skill level. So I was being blackmailed with this picture that no one would show this picture to my wife, Gina, because she didn't think I should be up there. I don't think anybody should be up there, but she particularly didn't want me up there. Well, she came to drop off lunch, and guess who was on top of the scaffolding? She had a bit of a heart attack, but we're okay. And there's Dave handing me stuff, and Jack was over on the side, and we made it. It was a little wobbly, but we got it done, and that's where Louise and Jordan would hand us down the pieces that go on the bottom on that soffit. If you look right at the top of the picture, they would hand us the stuff over the roof on that. And then out of nowhere, a guy named Don Stewart from the Holly Church shows up, and he helped us that Sunday because he's the third guy, and you really need 3 guys. Well, we had 4 in the morning, then Dave left, but you need 1 guy in the bottom cutting and handing the pieces up, and 2 guys up on the scaffolding putting on. It doesn't look that high there, but that going up and down that ladder is a little trying. And Dave, hand me his stuff here. I also want to note that we had some help from the Cashot family. He brought the boys out, and they helped salvage some of those boards, and Dave helped demo some of the carpeting out there, if you guys remember that. here's the Perez family. And I just put on there, he did pretty much everything. Seriously. I got pictures of him and Petra doing all kinds of stuff. Petra, particularly in the beginning, was very involved, and with her treatment, she had to pull back some. But the pastor, is very faithful. Pretty well does whatever we need. That was really tough, hard work, drilling those holes for the testing. That wall, that's the wall between the two rooms and the fellowship wall. It's like they sewed that wall into that. I mean, you'd rip out 4 studs and there was still 10 more things there. I don't know, whatever they did, that took us, I think, 3 Sundays to finish that wall off. We were setting the infill. That's where the door used to go into the bathroom from the classroom. We had to put a stud wall in there and fill that with drywall. Pastor brought his father-in-law out. He was a big help, particularly with the drywall, both in cutting and setting. Turns out Pastor had some good skills with the handrail. Ta-da! And did a lot of work on that. And we got that together. For the closing text on this, it says, "Then the heads of the father of the houses of Judah and Benjamin, the priests and the Levites, and all whose spirits God had moved, arose to go up and build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem." I think it's just important when we build a house here in Grand Blanc. And Jerusalem had a special meeting, but I think God has been working on us. If you remember where we started from and where we are now, we've come a long way on that. And the other thing, it says they gave according to their ability. They gave for the treasury of the work. I don't know if you heard the news, but we got a donation. I said in my email $20,000. It was actually $25,000. So, and as you know, one of the neighbors stopped by and he was very complimentary, asked if he could give a $1,000 donation to the church, which the pastor was glad. We were up there last Sunday putting the top up on the gym, and the neighbors, there were 4 or 5 of them getting out of their car on the other side of the fence, and they yelled out, "It's looking really good, great job," And pretty much every Sunday, people have stopped in and just said, "Oh, we're so thankful for what you're doing." So we're making an impression with nothing else with these people over here, and then these people are going to like it because we're going to put the fascia siding up on the back side of the gym. And if you probably haven't seen it, but from the back side, it's this ugly red board. And anyways, Kyla went and painted it, so all we got to do is put I think 5 pieces of fascia, and then that'll look nice for them too. So I just wanted to take a time to celebrate what we've done. As I look back through the picture, man, we've done a lot of work here. And just, the guys have been here pretty much guys and ladies, particularly the ladies of late have just been tearing it up with the painting and setting the trim. And anyways, we've all come together to do the work of the Lord, and I think I can say, Pastor may agree, our names are written in heaven, what we did. I remember what we did at Holly. We, when I first moved there, they were putting an addition on Adelphian Junior Academy, and Sundays we used to go, and Kenny Cole would set the masonry, and then the rest of us would be in there painting, and I saw all these families. I'll date myself. That's the first time I saw Wayne Starr walk by me, and he had a pouch on, and he had this big, huge drill in his pocket, and it was battery operated. I'd never seen one. I said, "What is that?" He said, "Oh, this is the coolest thing." And he pulled out this battery. Well, when we were working, that was probably the most common tool we used out there, was those drill operated. So, but I still have memories of that. I have memories of us building did the playground. That was out there. I got a group of guys together, and we did that. And then later, we built the playground for the smaller kids there. I can remember John Hill bringing his tractor out and spreading all the stone. So these I think are going to be really great memories. I think they're going to be great memories for the kids growing up. Hopefully, we'll go on a mission trip and help build a church somewhere. But I really, truly believe that God, in closing, The last 3 Sundays, well, 2 of the last 3 Sundays, they forecasted rain, 60, 70% change in the morning. And the one day, I think it changed to 80%. And I prayed, I said, Lord, I got the people, I got the siding, but I can't control the weather. Do you know, that Sunday, we didn't get 1 drop. I drove up to Ace Hardware, and the pavement was wet. I drove back and drove up Warwick Trail, it was dry. And I could see in the ground, I could see these dark clouds, and they were saying on the radio that, the rain is almost done here in Detroit. It's been raining all day. We didn't get a drop. And then 2 Sundays ago, not only did it not rain on a day they called for rain, this big hunk of blue sky opened right up over the top, and it was cold. It was like 48 or so. Well, when the sun hits that siding and bounces off you, it brings the temperature up to like 55. We were actually sweating. We had to take our jackets off. So I really think the Lord has blessed us. He's blessed us with the giving, with the talent. And I just want to thank everyone for everything they've done. And hopefully our goal is let's try to get in there by Christmas holidays. So I'll have a closing prayer. Dear Father in heaven, I do thank you for the talents you've given us, for the opportunity, for the miracles you've worked, for the funding, and I thank you for our pastor who followed your leading with the vision for this project. And now, Lord, I ask you to be with us as we go through the rest of the service. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.